went to the UK in November 2001 to the FWA Academy. I met the head trainer there, Mark Sloan. I just had a very light training session. He sort of went through a couple of things with me, spoke about the training, what it involved. I guess Mark thought it was kind of strange because all these guys were based in the UK and obviously more or less around Portsmouth. And here was this Irish guy coming over, sort of talking about becoming a professional wrestler. I really don't think he took me seriously. But as soon as that session was finished, I had my mind made up. That was it. I definitely wanted to become a pro wrestler. This is what I wanted to do in my life. When I returned to Ireland, I was excited. I had found something that I wanted to do, and really nothing was going to stop me. But I had to sort of break the news to my parents that I wanted to move to the UK full time to actually pursue this and train to become a wrestler. This wasn't exactly taken lightly, shall we say. They weren't over impressed. I come from a very small area in Offaly called Clonmacnoise, a very rural area. Professional wrestling would be very uncommon in Ireland in general, but in a rural area, for someone to actually think about doing this would be thought almost as just bewildering, really. After my parents had accepted the idea that professional wrestling is something I wanted to try, they accepted the fact that I was going to have to move to the UK. So in 2002 of January, I pretty much packed up my bags, said my goodbyes, and full-time permanently moved to Portsmouth in the UK. I just remember being so shocked because when you look at TV and you see professional wrestling, you just immediately think, obviously, this is not real, so it probably doesn't hurt. You just have to learn the moves and the flips and everything else. The first thing you learn in professional wrestling is to actually fall so you can physically land without hurting yourself. The first 2 months of my training really was a shock to my body, and I sort of had to adjust to actually taking punishment and actually absorbing quite a lot of blows. But once the 2 months had sort of finished and my body had adjusted to it, this is when I really started to begin enjoy training and really trying to actually hone my craft and become a professional wrestler. When you're becoming a wrestler, it's not just actually learning the moves and learning how to physically be a wrestler, you also have to look like a wrestler. When I first went to England, I weighed 11 stone. When I made my debut, I weighed 14 and a half. That was basically a year of going to the gym, eating properly, training so hard at the school, and just making sure that this was it. This is my debut. When I met it, it was going to be one of the best ones that people had seen. After I'd been wrestling for a year, I contacted the top promoter in the UK, which is Brian Dixon. He runs All-Star Wrestling Promotions. Myself and my best friend in the business, Andy Boy Simmons, who I trained with, ended up getting work with Brian. He runs holiday camps during the summer, which is called Butlins in the UK. So in the summertime, he could have up to 7, sometimes 8 shows a week. Me and Andy worked about 4 to 5 shows a week, and along with that, I kept a part-time job. It's very hard to make a full-time income from professional wrestling, and obviously when you first start off, you're not going to get as high a wage as someone who's doing it 4 or 5 years. So it's vital that you have a second income coming in. I wrestled all throughout Europe in the 3rd year and 4th year of my career, traveling many different places and for many different promotions. I got to meet loads of different people, both wrestlers and fans, and experience cities I never thought I'd go to. In 2005, I had the biggest break in my career. I had a tryout with World Wrestling Entertainment in the Wembley Arena in London. On the first day, I was informed that I was going to be wrestling in a match on TV with a wrestler by the name of Umaga. I was shocked because not all of us expected to get TV matches, and when they told us that we were, I was nervous, but I was really excited. Unfortunately, when I was in the ring with one of the UK guys, I ended up taking a blow to my nose and actually busted my nose. Now in WWE policies, you have to be blood tested and different regulations. And because I obviously hadn't been in the WWE before then, I hadn't been tested or anything for blood tests. So I unfortunately lost my match for later on that night on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, I was gutted and really disappointed. When I moved back to Ireland, I didn't want to lose my touch with professional wrestling. It's still a massive part of my life. So I just basically thought to myself, I remember when I was a kid and how hard it was to up and move from my home and go to England. And I just thought, you know what, I'd love to train some people because I really enjoyed my training. So it'd be great if I could pass on my knowledge and experience and maybe just try to get some Irish wrestlers up and running.
When Eamon first came home from Ireland, there was obviously a settling in period for him. It was quite a big change, moving back home, back to where he started basically. So, you know, he had to concentrate on different things. Obviously, work was number one. He had a full-time job. He just started up in his first full-time job back, and wrestling was something that was in the background. As we began to talk again about wrestling, about his career, about the goals that he was looking at for the future, a wrestling school was something that came up in discussion. You know, when we discussed it at the start, it was a vague idea, but as discussions progressed, this seemed like something, you know, that was actually achievable. And the other point was, you know, we actually had a pretty good package to offer. Eamon was a fully qualified, trained professional wrestler. He had 10 plus years experience in the business, something which there's not many guys, well, there's very much no guys in Ireland that have this. Me, on the other hand, I had done sports management degree in college, and it was something I was very much interested in. So, you know, I could look after the business side of it, and on top of that, I had done extensive studies in health and fitness. We decided we're from rural Ireland, and let's give rural Ireland a chance at doing something different. And where better place to start this than in Clonmacnoise, County Offaly, as it doesn't get much more rural than this place. We grew up from an agricultural background, and when you grow up in a setting like this, you've got several types of facilities that can be transformed into something completely different. And this is where we got the initial idea of using the shed. I spent about 6 weeks working on the shed itself, basically providing enough space to have a ring and a training matted area. When that work was done, the next job was to purchase a professional wrestling ring. This was one of our main costs for the training facility. Eamon, again, used his wrestling connections, and we actually ended up purchasing the ring which Eamon was initially trained in. After initial advertisements, emails started to trickle in, slowly but surely. More and more interest had built up. So when we seen that we had 6 to 8 guys who seemed genuinely interested, we decided a 3-day camp was the first opportunity we were going to offer here at Eamon Wrestling Promotions. At the back of this 3-day camp, once it was over, basically we sat down with all the trainees and asked them what they thought of their 3-day experience. So we posed the question to the lads. The answer came back was a resounding yes. These guys wanted to do this as a regular routine to their week. They all had different goals. Some to do it, you know, full time, that they really seen this as a potential career. Some guys just wanted to make it as far as their debut, and that was fine with us, as long as they were committed that this was going to be a long process, not a short process. Good. My role in each training session, first of all, is to take the lads for a thorough warm-up before the actual action begins in the ring or on the mats. This warm-up involves cardiovascular and endurance-based work. In other words, we'll be doing things like strides, jumping jacks, burpees and so on for cardiovascular-based stuff. For muscular endurance, we'll do things like squats, lunges, press-ups, sit-ups, all these things working on the major muscle groups. Throughout the week, I will talk to the boys about physical fitness programs which they should be adhering to in order to gain the benefits or the results in their physiques, which is required for the show or the presentation of wrestling.
Every session begins with the very fundamentals that the lads have in the very first training session, which is taking back bumps in the ring, flip bumps, which is rotating in the air and landing on your back, and running the ropes. These can't be repeated enough times. Perfection is what we're looking for, and the only way that will happen is by repeating over and over again each week. The lads have now been training almost 5-6 months the guys who started at the very beginning. The rest have been about 3 or 4 months. So they're at the position now where I've shown them the basics of chain wrestling, which is locking up, and actual wrist locks and hammer locks and different actual mat wrestling, and actually learning how to fall and do the basic maneuvers. For the last couple of months, the lads have been learning individual moves and different sequences. And we're at the point now where we're actually trying to put these moves and sequences together to create a physical match. In the last 2 weeks, we've got to the point where we're almost able to complete a 10-minute match. And now I'm just trying to make sure the lads' movement is correct, and basically that all their fundamentals are still coming through. My goal for my wrestling school is to get all my students to the point where they're ready to have their professional debut. And then from that point, they can go and look for bookings and wrestle, if some of them like abroad or based in Ireland. Once they've achieved their debut, it's in their hands from there. But I want to be able to get them to that point and leave it up to them.
So I thought I'd come down, try one class, and just fell in love with it. Fell in love with it the second I came here. I just couldn't wait to come back down again the next week. What I love most about wrestling is that, like, I grew up for years as a wrestling fan, and I always watched the matches, always wondered how they performed, but I always wanted to understand what went on in the background, and like what laid up to the show being produced. And like one of the shows there was able to help set up the ring, and it was a real first education for me into the wrestling business, and it was definitely an experience, and one that I hope to duplicate.
The training is tough. It's I won't lie, it's probably one of the toughest things I've ever done. I've played rugby, football, but you know, a day after that you're okay. This is like a week after that. You're sore and you're bruised. My favourite move is probably so far is actually a crossbody, which wouldn't be a move for me basically, but it's something I enjoy. I'd love to do shows around the country, in England as well, and if I ever got to, my biggest dream I guess would be to work maybe in Japan, do a tour there. But I'm realistic about it. I don't think I'll ever make it to the WWE, but you know, hopefully if I got the call I'd take it.
Today the training's been going really well. You know, I'm happy with the progress of the lads. Like, we've got about 10, as you've seen today, regular guys come down. We have some people that come down and then come back a few weeks later, but the guys who are regulars and come here every week, they listen to what I have to say, they follow instruction. You know, when Porrick tells them about nutrition, they're all trying to work on their physiques. So that just makes life a bit easier for me when I have trainees who listen and do what they're told and basically learn the way they should. And I've no doubts in 6 to 7 months' time, you know, the majority will be able to have a debut match and will be at the level where I'm happy for them to go out and perform in front of a crowd, and they can go from there then and see what they want to do with the rest of their careers.
The school, I feel, is going very well. As Eamon says, it's a slow process in any business. You have to build it up from the ground up. And our 10 core guys that we have, they've got, as Eamon says, the right attitude, and I think that's more than half the battle. We're always going to have lads who will come down, as Eamon said, lose interest and go off again. But as long as we have those core guys there, we can build on that. And we think that, I think you'd agree, like the future looks fairly good for the training school here.
Of the academy, ready to do battle against David Ryan. Two, goodness me, Ryan on his feet. Shrahan looking to take him down.
First of all, I'd just like to thank all these great audience for coming here tonight and supporting Eamon and Ian and young Damien.